You know, life has a funny way of sneaking up on you. 15 years ago, I married the love of my life, Juniper. Not your typical name, huh? But then again, she's never been a typical woman. Beautiful, smart, and fiercely independent. Juniper was everything I thought I could never deserve. We met back when she was finishing up her last year in college. I was this eager, fresh-faced kid signing up for my first military contract. It was a big step, but I wanted to prove something to myself and maybe to her too. She promised to wait for me, and I believed her. Hell, I clung to that promise like a lifeline during those endless drills and sleepless nights. While I was learning how to be a soldier, Juniper was acing her finals and prepping for graduation. She'd send me these handwritten letters, full of love and plans for our future. She'd always end them with the same line, "I'll be here when you get back." Always. I ate that up. Made it easier to endure the days when my bunk felt colder than usual, or when the guys around me talked about girls who'd moved on. But life's not a straight road, is it? About a year into my contract, I ended up with a busted back. An accident during a training exercise. It wasn't glamorous, just bad timing and worse luck. They sent me home early, with a limp and a lot of free time to think. Juniper didn't hesitate, though. She was right there waiting for me, just like she said she would be. We got married that same year, and life since then? Well, it's been good. Not perfect, but good. We've built a life together. Jobs, vacations, inside jokes only we get. Juniper's been my rock, my partner, my everything. Or at least, that's what I thought. Funny thing about life, though, it doesn't just hand you the truth wrapped up in a pretty bow. Sometimes it waits, bides its time, and then drops a bomb on you when you least expect it. And let me tell you, a few weeks ago, I found something. Something that's made me question everything I thought I knew about my wife, our marriage, and the life we've built together. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning of how it all unraveled. Last month, I finally took some time off work. It wasn't anything fancy. I'm a sales manager, so vacations usually mean staying home, catching up on chores, and trying not to check emails too much. Juniper headed out early for her job at the clinic. The kids grabbed their backpacks and bolted to school. And just like that, the house was mine for the day. With no one around, I figured I'd stick to my routine. Even 15 years after my back injury, keeping my muscles strong has been a priority. Physical therapy might have been temporary, but the habit of stretching and lifting weights stuck with me. And hey, it's cheaper than therapy and a hell of a lot quieter than a gym. That morning, I decided to mix it up and add some weight to my usual sets. I remembered we had extra plates for the dumbbells somewhere, on the dreaded chaos zone we call the attic. Perfect. A quick trip up there, grab the plates, and I'd be back to my workout in no time. Except it wasn't that simple. The attic is a jungle of forgotten junk, old Christmas decorations, random furniture, and a lifetime of stuff we kept telling ourselves we'd sort through someday. While rummaging through one of the boxes marked miscellaneous, always a red flag, I spotted something out of place. Juniper's old camera. It was a blast from the past, one of those chunky film cameras people carried around before smartphones took over. At the time, digital cameras were taking over in popularity, but many snobs continued to take photos on film. I almost laughed when I saw it. She used to love taking pictures back in college, landscapes, parties, you name it. It was part of her charm, this artsy side that balanced out my more practical, straight-laced nature. Curiosity got the better of me, so I picked it up. That's when I noticed the weight. The thing wasn't empty. Sure enough, when I popped it open, there was a roll of film inside, sealed up, untouched. Who knows how long it had been there? The thought hit me. I could get these photos developed, maybe surprise Juniper with a little trip down memory lane. Sweet, right? A thoughtful husband moment. I told myself it was no big deal, just some old pictures. Probably landscapes or blurry shots of her college friends. I put the camera aside for a few days, but it kept nagging at me. Finally, I sat down, Googled places that still developed film, and found one about 20 minutes away. I called them up, explained the situation, and they were more than happy to help. "Drop it off whenever," the guy said. "We'll have it ready in a few days." Seemed simple enough. I tucked the camera in my bag, feeling oddly excited. It wasn't just about the pictures. It was about seeing a little slice of the Juniper I fell in love with. If only I'd known what I was really signing up for. A few days later, my phone rang just as I was wrapping up some errands. "Hi, is this Chris?" the voice on the other end asked. "Yeah, this is Chris." "Hey, your photos are ready. Everything came out great. You can pick them up anytime." "Awesome, thanks," I said, grabbing my keys and heading out the door. The shop was small, with an old-school vibe that made me feel like I'd stepped back into the 90s. The guy behind the counter smiled when I walked in. He reached for a plain envelope sitting near the register, then slid it over with a grin. "Here you go," he said, his tone light but teasing. "Looks like someone had a wild youth, huh?" I blinked, not quite catching his meaning. "Thanks," I said, forcing a polite smile as I paid. Carrying the envelope back to my car, I was curious but not overly concerned. Just old photos, right? Maybe some goofy college parties or artsy shots Juniper had taken of her friends. But as soon as I opened the envelope and pulled out the first print, my stomach dropped. It wasn't goofy or artsy. It was Juniper, sitting on a couch at what looked like a party, holding a cup of something in one hand. Her smile was bright, carefree, and unmistakably flirtatious. She wasn't alone in the frame. There was a guy next to her, way too close, with his arm draped around her shoulders. I quickly flipped to the next photo, and the next. Each one hit me harder than the last. Groups of college kids dancing wildly, drinks spilling everywhere, Juniper laughing, wrapped in the arms of strangers. Her lips pressed against someone else's in a way that made my chest tighten painfully. I shoved the photos back into the envelope and sat there, frozen. The realization hit me like a punch. These weren't just pictures of a college party. These were snapshots of betrayal, of a time when Juniper had promised me loyalty and faithfulness while I was away serving my country. I drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The house was empty when I got there. Juniper was still at work, and the kids wouldn't be home for hours. Perfect. I needed space, time to sort through the storm in my head. Sitting at the kitchen table, I pulled out the photos again, this time forcing myself to go through every single one. The parties, the guys, the way Juniper looked, completely different from the woman I thought I knew. Carefree, wild, completely absorbed in a world I hadn't been a part of. And it wasn't just the parties. It was what they represented. While I'd been pushing through endless drills, writing her letters, and counting the days until I could see her again, she'd been living it up, enjoying her freedom in ways I'd never imagined. The promises she'd made to me, the trust we'd built, they suddenly felt like a cruel joke. As I set the last photo down, a cold sweat ran down my back. My hands trembled, and my chest ached with the weight of everything I'd just seen. Juniper, the woman I'd trusted with my heart, hadn't just broken that trust, she'd shattered it. And now, I didn't know if I'd ever be able to put the pieces back together. The rest of the day, I couldn't stop thinking about those photos. They were burned into my brain, each image more damning than the last. I couldn't wrap my head around it. This wasn't just some youthful phase, some harmless fun. This was betrayal, pure and simple. I kept coming back to the same thought. If Juniper had been single, this wouldn't have been my business. She could have lived her life however she wanted, parties, flings, whatever. But she wasn't single. She was my girlfriend, my partner. She'd made promises to me, promises that I'd taken seriously. While I was busting my ass in the army, she was off, doing whatever the hell she wanted. And the worst part? She let me believe the lie. She let me think I was the only one, that she was as committed to us as I was. All those letters, all those late-night calls, they were just words. Empty words. By the time evening rolled around, I was seething. I didn't want to yell. I didn't want to explode. But I also didn't want to sit on this forever. Something had to give. When Juniper came home from work, she looked tired but happy, like she always did after a long day. She kissed me on the cheek, asked how my day was, and started unpacking her bag. I watched her for a moment, trying to decide how to approach this. Finally, I cleared my throat. "Hey, Juniper," I said, keeping my tone light. I've been thinking. It's been a while since we spent some real time together. Just the two of us. She looked up, a little surprised. Yeah, it has. Between work and the kids, it's hard to carve out time. Exactly, I said. So, how about this? Let's take the kids to your parents for the weekend. They'll love it. Your mom's been asking to see them anyway, and we can go somewhere quiet. Just us. No distractions. Her face lit up, and for a second, I almost felt guilty for what I was really planning. That sounds amazing, she said. I'd love that. The next day, we packed up the kids and drove them to her parents' house. Juniper chatted with her mom while I unloaded the bags, keeping things friendly and normal. No need to raise suspicion, not yet. Once we said our goodbyes, we headed out on our romantic getaway. I had planned everything down to the last detail. A picnic in a secluded spot by the lake, complete with a blanket, some wine, and her favorite snacks. It was the kind of thing she loved, simple but thoughtful. The drive was quiet, just the hum of the road and the occasional comment about the weather. I could feel her relax as we got closer, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside me. When we arrived, the spot was just as beautiful as I'd remembered. Tall trees swayed gently in the breeze, their leaves casting dappled shadows on the soft grass. The lake glistened in the fading sunlight, perfectly still and serene. We spread out the blanket, and Juniper sighed contentedly as she settled in. This is perfect, she said, smiling at me. I smiled back, but it felt hollow. My mind was already racing, trying to figure out how to bring up what I'd seen without completely losing it. For now, I had to play along. Little did she know, this wasn't just a romantic picnic. This was the calm before the storm. Before you find out what happens next, please subscribe to the channel. We sat there for a long time, just soaking in the view. The soft rustle of leaves and the gentle lapping of the lake against the shore were the only sounds. For a moment, it felt peaceful, almost normal. I tried to ease into the conversation, starting with the good memories. Do you remember when we first met? I asked, glancing at Juniper. She smiled, her expression soft. Of course I do. You were so shy. I thought I'd have to do all the talking. I chuckled. Yeah, well, you were the confident one. You made it easy. We traded stories, little pieces of our shared history. The first time we kissed. The letters we sent while I was in basic training. The promises we made to each other. When I left for the army, I said carefully, I used to think about those promises a lot. It got me through some tough days. Juniper nodded, still smiling. I did too. I was so proud of you. I hesitated, my heart pounding. I have something for you, I said, standing up. A little surprise. Her eyes lit up with curiosity as I walked to the car and grabbed the envelope. My hand shook slightly as I brought it back to her. Sitting down beside her, I handed it over. What's this? She asked, looking at me with a mix of amusement and confusion. Open it, I said simply. She opened the envelope, and as soon as she saw the first photo, her face fell. Her hands froze, holding the print halfway out. Her eyes darted to mine, wide with panic. Where did you find this? She stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. I kept my tone even, though my chest burned with anger. The attic, your old camera, I had the film developed. Juniper's breath hitched as she flipped through a few more photos. Chris, I don't know what this is. Where did you even— Don't, I interrupted sharply. Don't play dumb. You know exactly what this is. She fumbled, her words coming out in a frantic rush. These were just jokes. We were messing around, being silly. It wasn't serious. It's not what you think. Not what I think? I snapped, my voice rising despite my effort to stay calm. You're kissing random guys practically naked at parties while I was in the army, writing you letters and believing you were waiting for me. That's not what I think. Chris, it was a long time ago, she cried, her voice cracking. I was stupid. I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to look cool in front of my friends. Cool? I exploded, standing up. You mean lying to me and throwing everything we had out the window? That's cool to you? Juniper started to cry, clutching the photos to her chest. I didn't mean for you to find this. I thought I got rid of that stupid camera years ago. Please, Chris, I swear it didn't mean anything. It was before we were married. Don't, I interrupted again, my tone ice cold. Don't pull that crap. We were a couple. You swore to me you'd be faithful. You made promises, Juniper. Promises I kept. She was sobbing now, her hands shaking as she tried to grab at my arm. I'm sorry. I was so young and dumb. I didn't think. Please, Chris, don't do this. Don't throw us away over something that happened so long ago. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady, though my anger was boiling over. You didn't think? Well, now I can't trust you. How am I supposed to believe anything you've ever told me? This changes everything. Juniper kept pleading, her words becoming a jumble of apologies and desperate excuses. But I'd had enough. We're done here, I said, snatching the blanket and tossing it into the car. Get in. This picnic's over. Her sobs quieted to broken hiccups as she followed me to the car. She climbed into the passenger seat, her face pale and streaked with tears. I slammed the trunk shut and got behind the wheel. The tension in the car was unbearable. The only sounds were the hum of the tires on the road and Juniper's muffled sobs. I kept my eyes on the highway, gripping the wheel tightly, trying to block out the chaos in my head. But then, out of nowhere, Juniper's sobs turned into full-blown wailing. She clutched her face, her cries echoing in the small space. Chris, please, don't do this. Don't tear us apart. We can fix this. I can fix this. Juniper, I started, trying to keep my voice steady, but before I could finish, she reached over and grabbed my arm. Her grip was frantic, desperate. The wheel jerked under my hands, and the car swerved sharply to the right. Jesus, Juniper! I shouted, pulling the car back into the lane. My heart was pounding, adrenaline flooding my veins. A car behind us honked angrily as it sped past. I slammed on the brakes and pulled over onto the shoulder. The tires crunched against the gravel as the car came to a stop. I turned to her, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger. What the hell is wrong with you? Are you trying to get us both killed? She shook her head, still sobbing uncontrollably. I'm sorry. I can't lose you. Please, Chris. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. Get out, I said firmly. Her tear-streaked face looked up at me, confused. What? Get out of the front seat. You're sitting in the back for the rest of the drive. I can't have you pulling something like that again. Chris, Now, I snapped. She hesitated, then unbuckled her seatbelt and climbed out of the car. I watched as she shuffled to the back and slid into the seat, clutching the envelope of photos like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Once she was in, I started the car again and pulled back onto the road. The rest of the drive was silent, apart from her occasional hiccuping sobs. I was too shaken to say anything, and honestly, I didn't trust myself to speak without exploding. When we finally got home, Juniper practically bolted from the car, clutching the envelope like it was her lifeline. I followed her inside, too tired to argue anymore. As soon as we were in the living room, she grabbed a pair of scissors from the kitchen drawer. Before I could ask what she was doing, she tore into the envelope, yanking out the photos. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice sharp. She didn't answer. Instead, she began slicing and tearing the pictures into tiny pieces, her movements wild and erratic. Her face was a twisted mix of anger and despair, and under her breath, she muttered curses, as if the photos themselves were to blame for everything. "Juniper, stop," I said, stepping forward. "That's not going to fix anything." But she ignored me, her focus entirely on destroying the evidence. When the last photo was reduced to confetti, she threw the scissors onto the counter and turned to me with a strange, almost manic smile. "There," she said, her voice shaky but triumphant. "It's done. The pictures are gone. No more problems, right? We can move on now." I stared at her, stunned. She looked so unhinged, so desperate. "Juniper," I said slowly, "tearing up some photos doesn't solve anything. The problem isn't the pictures, it's what they represent. It's the lies, the broken trust." Her smile faltered, and she took a shaky step toward me. But it's all in the past, Chris. I've changed. I swear I've changed. I've been faithful to you. I've been a good wife. Have you? I interrupted, my voice cold. Because I'm starting to wonder if this was just the beginning. What if there's more you haven't told me? What if this didn't stop after we got married? Her face went pale, and she shook her head vehemently. No, Chris, I swear. I've never cheated on you. Not once. Not since we got married. You have to believe me. Her insistence sounded hollow, almost ridiculous, given everything I'd just discovered. But she kept going, her voice rising in desperation. You're my husband. I love you. We have kids together. Don't throw that away. We can fix this. Please, we can fix this. Fix it? I shouted, my voice rising to a level I didn't recognize. How the hell do you think we can fix this? It's impossible. What are you even suggesting? Should I go out, sleep with a bunch of random women and call it even? Is that your grand solution? It was a cruel, desperate thing to say, more an angry jab than a serious suggestion. But before I could regret it, Juniper's eyes widened, and to my shock, she nodded. Yes, she said quickly, her voice trembling but earnest. Yes, you can do that. If that's what it takes to make things right, I'll agree. I don't care what you do, Chris, as long as we stay together. Her response stopped me dead in my tracks. I stared at her, my mouth opening and closing like I'd forgotten how to speak. What? Are you even hearing yourself? I finally managed. Do you realize how insane that sounds? You'd actually be okay with me, your husband, cheating on you just to... What? Balance the scales? Yes, she cried, her voice cracking. If it means saving our marriage, yes, I'll do whatever it takes. You have to believe me. I took a step back, shaking my head in disbelief. Are you out of your mind? What's wrong with you? I'm still your husband, Juniper. We're still married. I'm not going to stoop to the level of meaningless affairs just because you think that'll fix this. But she wasn't done. Her desperation reached new, absurd heights. Then let's divorce, she blurted out, her words tumbling over each other. We'll get a divorce. You can go do whatever you need to, sleep with whoever you want. And then, when you're ready, we'll get remarried. We can start over fresh, like none of this ever happened. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My heart pounded in my chest, not with anger anymore, but with a mix of fear and disgust. Juniper, I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. You're not making any sense. Do you even hear what you're saying? Do you understand how ridiculous this all is? Her tears streamed down her face as she nodded frantically. I know it sounds crazy, but I'll do anything, Chris. Anything to keep us together. I ran a hand through my hair, struggling to process what was happening. She wasn't thinking clearly, that much was obvious. And as much as her words enraged me, I couldn't keep engaging with this madness. Enough, I said firmly, raising a hand to stop her. I can't do this right now. I need space. I need time to think. Her sobs quieted, and she stared at me, her eyes wide and pleading. Chris, please, don't leave me. We can work this out. I shook my head. I'm not saying I'm leaving for good, but I need space, Juniper. I need to clear my head and figure out where I stand. Tomorrow, I'm going to a hotel for a few days. She opened her mouth to protest, but then stopped, as if realizing there was no point. Her shoulders slumped, and she wiped at her tears with trembling hands. Okay, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I understand. Just promise me you won't rush into anything. Don't make any decisions yet. Please. I nodded, though I couldn't bring myself to say anything more. The tension in the room was suffocating, and I needed to get out before I said something I couldn't take back. That night, we barely spoke. She cried herself to sleep while I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with everything that had happened. The next morning, I packed a bag and left for a hotel. As I pulled out of the driveway, Juniper stood at the door, watching me go with tear-filled eyes. For the first time in our marriage, I didn't know if I'd ever really come back. The hotel room was quiet, almost too quiet. Those first few days away from home were some of the hardest I've ever had. It was like sitting in a vacuum, with nothing but my thoughts to keep me company. I knew I couldn't stay stuck in that spiral, so I decided to take action. One afternoon, I called a divorce attorney. I didn't know if I was ready to file, but I needed to understand my options. We met the next day in his office. The place was sleek, minimalist, and cold, kind of like how I felt inside. I told him everything. The photos, the betrayal, the broken trust. He listened intently, nodding as I spoke. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and said, "Chris, I can help you with this. We can file for divorce whenever you're ready. We'll fight for custody, child support, alimony, whatever you need." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. But as much as part of me wanted to pull the trigger and walk away, another part hesitated. I kept thinking about the kids. They didn't ask for any of this. They deserved a stable home, a life without their parents at war. Sensing my hesitation, the attorney offered one more piece of advice. If trust has been broken to this extent, you may want to consider a DNA test for your children. It's not uncommon in situations like this. The suggestion hit me like a punch to the gut. I wanted to believe my kids were mine without question, but after everything I'd learned about Juniper, the cracks in my faith were undeniable. As hard as it was to admit, the DNA test felt like a necessary step. Still, it didn't make the decision any easier. That night, feeling completely lost, I decided to go to a church near the hotel. I wasn't a particularly religious man, but I needed to talk to someone who wouldn't judge or tell me what I should do. The priest welcomed me warmly, guiding me to a small, quiet room. I told him everything, from the betrayal to my doubts, my anger, and my confusion. He listened patiently, nodding at times, offering quiet reassurances. We talked about sin, forgiveness, and what it means to truly atone for our mistakes. He didn't pressure me to forgive Juniper, but he reminded me of the importance of seeking clarity and peace, both for myself and for my family. When I left, I felt a little lighter, not fixed, but like I could breathe again. The next day, I called Juniper. I told her I wanted to do a DNA test on the kids. Her reaction was immediate. She started crying and begging me to trust her. "They're your children, Chris," she insisted. "I swear it." But the tears didn't change my mind. "Juniper," I said firmly, "after everything that's happened, I need to know. For my own sanity." She reluctantly agreed. Over the next week, we went to a lab and had the test done. The waiting was excruciating, but when the results finally came back, I felt a weight lift off my chest. The kids were mine. At least that was one thing I didn't have to question anymore. But the relief didn't erase the larger problem. I was still stuck in this strange, painful limbo, unsure of how to move forward. Juniper and I agreed to try family therapy. I figured it was worth a shot, for the kids, if nothing else. The sessions were tough. Sitting in a room together, talking about everything that had happened, felt like reopening wounds that hadn't even started to heal. Juniper poured her heart out, begging for forgiveness, promising she'd do whatever it took to rebuild my trust. The kids, though we tried to shield them from the details, could sense the tension. Their worried faces were a constant reminder of what was at stake. And me? I still didn't have an answer. I didn't know if I could ever forgive her, or if we could go back to anything resembling normal. For now, we're technically still married, but I'm living on my own. The therapy helps a little, but the questions still linger. Should I forgive her for the sake of our family? Or should I cut my losses and start over? I'm sharing this because I know I'm not the only one who's been in a situation like this. Maybe someone out there has advice or a perspective I haven't considered. I know some people might call me weak for not walking away immediately, and maybe they're right. But it's easy to be a tough guy online. In real life, it's messier, more complicated. So, what do you think? Am I holding on to something that's already gone? Or is there a chance we can salvage what's left? Let me know. I'm open to hearing your thoughts. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to the channel. I wish you a great mood and good luck.